So I put out my first chapter on America's Nursing Homes, The Lost Legacy, on my Facebook page. You can read it. It's mainly just describing on things that we did and the closeness that we had with our residents and staff back in the day. Back when Medicaid was formed to do what it was supposed to do, to take care of poorest of the poor. But in today's world, that's not happening. Look at all the people that are left out on the streets. How many of those have psychiatric issues that could be corrected? But they've closed down all of our psychiatric facilities. One of the largest ones was there in Maryland, Springfield. And they've closed it down to where it's just a shell of what it was. And the reason this all come about is for money. That's what it always turns the world, is the greed of what this country has become, to take probably one of the best generations in history and shove them in a corner and warehouse them so you can get more money. I don't see where that makes America great at all. No, I don't care, if you're a Republican, Democrat, if you love President Trump, if you hate President Trump. I care about the elderly and our healthcare system. And that affects you, all of us. So it doesn't matter what party you agree with or not. And if President Trump ran on let's make America great again, well, let's put him to the test. Help me get my colleagues and I in there to give them the information that we have. And let's see what they'll do with it. Because, this is a big, giant hole. You're talking billions of dollars, an industry that damn near rivals our military. And it's your tax dollars funding this. And it's being wasted and stolen. And the residents are paying the price and the staff are paying the price. The very people during COVID you called heroes and celebrated. And once that nightmare died off, they're thrown right back into the trash, mistreated, not paid properly, left shorthanded all the time. And they're doing their very best. They're pushing as hard as they can. But it's that corporate level that's above them that's restricted them from doing it. Because they cut every single thing that they can. It's not about making the nursing home great. It's not about taking care of the residents. It's about nickel and diamond every single penny they can get off of. And as the story goes along, we'll break into that. Where these companies are coming from. Like, why is Israel pushing so much money into our country to buy up our nursing homes? A lot of people don't know that, but that's what they're doing. And they're raping the system and stealing your money and not giving the care that should be out there. And so that's where I want to take and inform people of what's really going on. Our news stations should be doing it. But you see today, we don't have any news. You have Republican news, Democrat news, but no real news on what our government is doing. Because if we did, this would have never happened. This wouldn't have come into be. But like I said, you're talking billions and billions of dollars. Just for Medicaid system is around over 800 billion. And a very large number of that's just being stolen right out of it. And like I said, if I did this back in the day, I'd be in jail and my face would have been plastered on every news station across the country. But today it's just common practice. It's just more or less like law. You're allowed to do it. And I don't agree with it. When I took my license, I took it very seriously that I'm there to protect the residents. And that's what I'm doing because I have nowhere else to go. I've went to the whistleblowers. I've been sending out this entire story that I broke down into 12 parts. I've sent this entire story to President Trump, Vice President Vance, Dr. Oz, Senator Kennedy. I've sent it to everybody that I could think of, congressmen, senators, like I said, all the new agencies, podcasters, and nobody wants to take a look into this story. And why is that? You're talking billions and billions of dollars being wasted. Why wouldn't Dodge take and dive into that? They dove into other sections, but why is it that nobody wants to dive into the nursing home industry? Because I think it's going to blow a big giant hole of what's going on in our entire healthcare system. From your health insurance, from hospitals to nursing homes, the entire thing's corrupted to the core. And it just keeps on going. And how's it going to sustain that? With baby boomers getting ready to roll in, they can't cover the floor now. So many people have left the industry. They holler there's a nursing shortage, but there's not a nursing shortage. They left the industry because it's so damn corrupt. That's why they left it. That's why I'm trying to do this story now, is to give them a place to come to and say, hey, this is what I saw. This is what happens. Because the regular world doesn't know about it. You don't hear the stories. They don't even publicize what happens in a nursing home. Even when there's major accidents, major neglect, you hear nothing about it. But the people that are living in those nursing homes, the families and the staff, they know exactly. They see it on a daily basis. But they have nowhere to go. You have all these support groups out there that say they're there to help them. Well, I sent them this story and they've done nothing with it. No contacts, no nothing. And that's what I believe they want. They don't want it to come together because somebody's becoming extremely rich from this broken system, and the American people, the elderly, they're the ones paying for it. And so we need to come together and help me get my story out there to change it. Because like I said, we've got all the technology, we've got the wisdom, we've got all that. It's just we lack the very will to come together and say, no, we're going to take and do it this way. And like I said, my colleagues and I have done this a lifetime. It'd be easy to do it, to fix it. I'm not talking years to do it. I'm talking months. We could have a whole new complete system that is there to protect the vulnerable and also to protect your tax dollars. Because if you're spending that money, you want the very best. You shouldn't be worried about, if I go into a nursing home, I'm going to kill myself. That's what 90% of the people say that when I ask them that. And I'm talking about people that are way up in the government part of it. They have the power to change it, but they'd rather kill themselves than to go in to fix it, which makes no sense to me. The system's broken. Let's come together and let's fix it. So like I said, follow the rest of my story. The first chapter is mainly describing some stories and things that we used to do for our residents to get them out, get them back out into the community. Give them some kind of a purpose, give them something to do. At least twice a month, we always had a big trip that we had a bus that we would take everybody out. I'm talking emptying a whole building, 52 residents. When have you, last time you ever seen a bus roll up with a ball game with nursing home residents to come watch baseball or football, or to go to a park for a big giant cookout? They built everything like a prison to keep the residents there on the property. And they get to sit there and do sensory groups. They get to do puzzles, arts and crafts. Now bingo, yeah, they love the bingo. But what's better than getting them all up and getting them outside, getting them out to carnivals, fairs, things like that. When we did that, not every person wanted to go, but when they come back and started telling the stories, after that, it just grew and grew and grew. And we had, our whole entire building was wanting to go. And that's what we did. We had the staffing to do it. We had the money to do it. But today we don't. They're all trapped and might as well be in a damn prison, sitting there day in and day out in that same place, never really getting out. Some places will take 2 or 3 people out that are easy to handle or something, but they don't have the staff. They would love to be able to take them out and do something, take them all out for ice cream, to get them up, change their scenery. But they don't have the staff to do it. And the corporations ain't going to give you the money to do it. So they're housed in there just like warehousing. And that's what I want to change. It doesn't have to be that way. So my advice is, let's pull this thing together. Let's do some real change. Dig down there, find the will to help me post this. That's all I'm asking you to do. Push a few numbers on your phone, help me share it, help me post it. Because like I said, it's your tax dollars. And then, if tragedy does strike, you're going to find out exactly what's going on in those facilities when it's your loved one laying there and not having the care that they deserve. While the big executives take and brag and boast about all the money that they saved this quarter, and the residents not getting the care and the staff are on their last legs. Everywhere I go to, you can see it on their faces. They're dragging themselves to work. They don't enjoy the work, but they need the money. They need to survive. This is a lot of them what they know. But that's why so many people left the industry to go into other things. I know probably 10 or 11 RNs that are working at fast food places because they don't get to see the residents, and it's a nightmare of paperwork, and they don't get to do what they were trained to do. So like I said, follow along with my story. I just posted out chapter 1, and I'll be putting out the other chapters daily until we get through it all. But like I said, the first beginning chapters are mainly dealing with the things that we did, to take and try and encourage to get people to be able to celebrate their life, even if it's in a nursing home, and not just show them off to the side. So like I said, follow the story and help me get it posted. And let's see if we can't bring some real change about and really make America great again.